Hello, good evening. Here we are on a nice Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Lovely time to be talking and getting into nice conversations. This is me, Preeti Chaudhary, here, your host for this evening for this edition of Diversity Dialogue via LinkedIn Live on this wonderful platform of LinkedIn. With me, we have four wonderful veteran women, and amongst us, we will be discussing the facets of diversity and inclusion today. Quick couple of reminders this conversation is for everybody that is attending here today. Please show us your love in the form of comments and questions in the chat box right under this live stream. Once again, let us get to know each other, learn from each other, and leverage each other's networks and also knowledge. With that, welcome everybody to this evening of LinkedIn Live Diversity Dialogue with me, your host Preeti Chaudhary, and we are here on LinkedIn Local India Live. With that, let me pull up our guests into the stream before I go on introducing the evening, the context, and then invite them for their views. So let's put our hands together for Dr. Major Rupinder Kaur, for Major Sonam Bakshi, for Lieut.Rita Gangwani, for Major Suman Bazad. Here we are. A very warm welcome. Thank you for your service, ladies. It's a privilege and an honor to be conversing with you here today. As we all know, we are here to talk about something which is very close to our hearts because we are parts of what we are going to be talking about today. The theme is diversity and inclusion, as we all know. And in diversity and inclusion, there are four pillars, as we are aware of. So, women, veteran, LGBTQ, and specially able people. With you four here today, it is a double whammy of sorts because not only are you women professionals, but you are veterans as well. So, today it is going to be really very interesting to hear your views and your idea in terms of any opportunities or challenges that you have had in your own personal and professional journeys as women, as veteran. So, with that, the context is set. The evening is nice and wide and open. There are plenty of attendees here who are already saying our highs and hellos via the comments here. So, without further ado, let me invite Major Suman to come and express her views on the topic of today. Over to you,
Hi.
Suman, and all yours. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, I would say diversity. I have been born and brought up in an environment which is diverse. So, I was born in a force environment which was fully diverse. Diverse people were over there, and then I served in Indian Army where diversity itself is there. So, I realized uh, when there is a diversity, there is more creativity, there is more acceptance, there are different perspectives available there. So when I joined the army, it was actually something new for the army itself because women were very new to the army that time, and the kind of challenges we used to face, like people used to first. I remember the first day in the organization when I joined, and people were just coming in, peeping inside that who has come in uniform. And I was feeling awkward, like what's happening around. And then I realized I am a single woman in uniform among 1,000 men. And this there were challenges also, but I was really happy. They were cooperative too. They were understanding, but it was not an easy thing. But slowly their acceptance came, and I had a wonderful time in Indian Army, and we really used to work together. I never felt as if I'm alone, or I was inclusive in the group. So I realized in the workforce environment, the more the diversity is, the more the productivity is there. And we are kind of like keep a kind of um, sensitivity was there, like, yeah, woman is there, and absolutely I never felt excluded there. Though challenges were there, but I really, really enjoyed in the uniform.
So you mean to say you felt one amongst the people, one amongst the men and women in the army? That's great. Thank you for those thoughts. We will come back a little bit later in the course of the evening. Let me invite Major Sonam Bakshi right here, who has had a very checkered career in terms of a lot of stuff, you know. So right from the forces to being in the corporate, and that to being in the HR, wherein you deal with people day in and day out. I'm sure she has her own views and ideas of what opportunities and what challenges she has gone through. So it is all over to you, Sonam. Please tell us your story now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Over to
much,
you.
Preeti. As always, your way of introducing always makes the person who's introduced feel a little special. Thank you for that. So I would actually, most of the times when I start my session in any place, I actually want to put the context in place that do we all know that what is diversity and inclusion as an audience and how is it different? Because there is a very thin line of difference, and there are a lot of people who actually confuse between diversity and inclusion. So first of all, let's define what both of them are, and then when I put my experience, you will be able to put the context better in place. So what do we mean by diversity in the workplace? It is that an organization employs a diverse team of people that's reflective of the society in which it exists and operates. So it's not only caste, creed, gender, etc. It can be nationality. It can be a citizen from Bihar can be different from a citizen from Rajasthan. I'm just giving a context. So diversity in workplaces, having people with different mindset, different background that they come from. So that is where we come in when we talk about diversity. And it actually refers to the traits and characteristics that make people unique. And what happens in inclusion is that inclusion refers to the behaviors and social norms that ensure people feel welcomed. So this is the difference. I don't know if everybody knew about it, but I always feel that in case somebody has a confusion, it is better to put the context in place. In terms of diversity and inclusion, it's a no-brainer that through studies of BCG and Big Fours, etc., it is a given thing that it increases the PNL by 37%, if I'm not wrong, which is what I read a couple of days back. And the question comes in why would different mindsets create such an increase in the number? Is it just a figure, or there are other factors that put under the diversity charter? The point is very simple. Innovation is the only way where organizations can sustain in the fast evolving world. And in case you don't have diverse minds and backgrounds to put the perspective, a different perspective from a different mindset, the innovation becomes a challenge. Innovation only comes from diversity, and kind of perspective is more well rounded. So that's about diversity and inclusion at workplace. In terms of my experience, I personally feel, and I always say that to my lady employees also, that we have to stop thinking that we are women. We have to start thinking that we are an employee of the organization, and stop expecting that there will be a different treatment. If you go with that mindset, I think the way you carry yourself, the way you behave, you don't even feel that there is any diversity, yet there is a diversity coming in. So it's just my thought. And even when in the Indian Army I went, I remember it's a funny incident that happened, and I always like to include that. I was posted in COD Agra, which is my hometown, and it was within 10-15 days of my getting commissioned. Apparently I went to a market because we had a core day and I was in my uniform. And those small cities, they always remember the faces. And one or two shopkeepers saw me, and in the evening my mom went to the market and they said, your daughter was taking part in a fancy dress show today, we saw her in a uniform. So that is the kind of and then she said no, she's got commission in the Indian Army. But that's the kind of woman in uniform, kind of a surprise element was there in the nation. uh, Again, I never faced a challenge. I felt very proud. I can feel awkward, I can feel embarrassed, but I felt very proud that I'm so unique that everybody is looking at, oh my god, who's this? So it's all your perspective, how you want to carry that diversity, and with what positivity and courage you are carrying that. I was very proud of being an army officer, and I was more proud because I was the only lady officer around. I mean, there are very few, and I'm one of them. So that's how it was in the armed forces. In the corporate world also, I feel uh, diversity and inclusion, no is a no brainer. It is very important. But in the corporate world also, sometimes the cases come in wherein women employees expect a different treatment. I feel that if you want to be inclusive and welcomed, don't treat yourself, discriminate yourself as a woman yourself. Just a thought that's from my end.
Very valid point. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure there will be lots more to discuss as we get into the question and answer section. We've reached the halfway mark right now, but before I come to the next speaker, a quick reminder for the attendees once again, please make sure that you are writing your comments and queries into the chat box or the comment section right under your live stream, because we will be taking up those questions soon after. This is supposed to be a dialogue and a conversation. So the essence of that means you ask and we answer. So please, let's keep that spirit. And with that, I move on to my dear friend Rupinder right here. Please take us through your own passion of diversity and inclusion that you champion at all levels, right from your MBBS days to your forces days to your days in different corporates like ENY and others to now. What is it that excites you, Rupinder? What is it that makes you think? And what is it that you hope could have been done maybe differently or better? It's over to you now. All yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Preeti, for giving me that opportunity. And also thank you to my colleagues who set the context beautifully. Thank you, Major Sonam, for really defining those terms, because it's important and imperative for people to make that distinction. While diversity, as you said, is largely about having all kinds of people feel welcomed, inclusion is more about making that feeling sustain. I will just add one thing to what you said with regards to having different nationalities, regions, capabilities. I would say for really an organization to be diverse, they have to have um, and they have to welcome people who bring in different points of view. Yeah, most of the times we end up having people and a representation with regards to numbers. That's how typically organizations drive diversity in their context. But we forget that while having numbers in place, we do not make people feel welcomed with regards to what they bring to the table, whether it's education, experience, um, or just a different thought process. And that's also my pain area when it comes to veterans transitioning to the corporate, because despite the fact that we've served the country, despite the fact that we bring in our own strengths, and of course there are opportunity areas, there's also a different thought process when a veteran joins a typical mainstream corporate. I'll pick that up later. But coming back to how diversity and inclusion is a no-brainer or is a must-have for organizations, you've highlighted the P&L benefit, and there are humongous number of studies that have been done. Our own organization, my last organization, Ernst & Young, did a study in 2019 with World Economic Forum, and came up not only with the financial benefits that an organization can accrue, thus giving it a business case for organizations to hire people from different perspectives, but also the fact that it makes organizations more innovative in the sense that they can hop, they can collect, they can uh, benefit from the collective genius of all these diverse points of view. And specifically with regards to women, which also is a passion for me and a research area. Um, there have been enough and more examples of women leading from the front, both in the corporate and in the veteran sector. But what they bring to the table, which is typical feminine qualities of leadership we call is more empathy to the table, and more concern, more uh, uh, the collaborative way of working, which is so required in the world that we are living in today. So that definitely calls even for a better, integration of women into the mainstream corporate, as well as the veterans. We all know the landmark decision which is being taken a few months back after a long, long fight with regards to women getting a permanent commission in the forces. So those are some of the broad areas that I am passionate about with regards to diversity and inclusion. Something that I have been really working back, and that's a passion project for both me and Preeti, is also the fact and the challenges. And I want to highlight this right here because of the fact that these are practical and real challenges, and all of us being veterans, and as Preeti said, it's a double whammy, with both all of us being women. I think we will be failing in our discussions today if we don't bring this point to the fore, which is that women veterans especially have faced and still face, to my experience, unique challenges as far as transitioning is concerned. And Rita, ma'am, who's kind of transitioned many, many years back, maybe can share her experiences. But what I personally feel, and I'll just take 2 minutes to summarize that, is the very fact that there's a lack of community of fellow female veterans is a big hurdle sometimes. The second one is, the different expectations the society has of women leaders when we transition from the armed forces to the mainstream corporate is in itself a huge, huge challenge. I still remember, and I can share with all of you, as much as I pride being raised in a very, very inclusive environment, with my father never having made any distinction between a boy and a girl. And luckily I got as my first stint into the forces, and I give a lot of credit to the forces for shaping me the way I am. When I entered into the corporate world about 10 years back in 2010, you are ingrained into those strong leadership skills, and all of you who are here with me will agree to that. But sometimes people in the outside world really don't like that. I personally have been told many a times that I'm intimidating. Yeah. And I have no shame in admitting that. The military encourages a direct communication style that many civilian workplaces might not understand that. Yeah. And so you have to pay that societal penalty for directness, which is higher for women than men veterans, because men are looked as being leaders if they use the same communication style. So that's one thing that I wanted to touch upon, and I also want people who are here to kind of talk about it as we go along the session. The second forethought, from my perspective, comes from the research that I've been doing for the last 6 months, and a lot of research around women leadership, around less women being in the C-suite, is also ascribed to the fact that women somewhere down the line, and the society with the gender stereotypes that they have, do not encourage women to take up themselves the leadership roles that they can actually take up. They are more reluctant to share their ideas in group discussions, given the fact that the society doesn't really encourage them to do it. Uh, I personally believe that our beliefs about ourselves are important in shaping all kinds of important decisions that we take. But if talented women aren't feeling confident, then there is a lot that we need to take up, and also the society needs to take up to ensure that they get their due in the workplaces. Yeah. So those are two broad things that I wanted to share with all of you, and also share your views as we go along. And what can we do as a group here together to break some of those stereotypes, give people the path forward, and just leave people with one message, that it's okay to be yourself and it's okay to be assertive wherever you are. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you very much, Rupinder, for those insights. And I do know that they come from your own personal experiences, your own pain points, and your own joys that you have sort of accumulated over all these years. Last but not the least, I will come to Rita now. But before that, I want to quickly pull up a few comments that the attendees have left for us here. So here is Diksha Ahuja saying, superb. Thank you, Diksha. Commander Saurabh Dimri right here saying, oh, okay, hi Preeti, hello, Commander Dimri. Then there is Sunil Singh saying, good initiative. And then there is Shaminder saying, all the best to all of us. So thank you, people, for all those lovely comments. We are ready for your questions. Before I go to Rita, a quick reminder once again, please. Let those questions and comments keep coming in into the comment section of this LinkedIn Live Diversity Dialogue with me, your host Preeti Chaudhary, and my guest Rupinder Kaur, Sonam Bakshi, Sonam Bazad, and last but not the least, Rita Gangwani. With that, Rita, it's over to you. Your own experiences, your own joys and sorrows. What has held you together? What has broken you in all this journey of yours? You happen to be a coach, you have charted a totally different path for yourself. And amongst all of this, where have you faced, if at all, a glass ceiling? Have you managed to break it? And what did you wish could have changed for you in your own journey? Over to you. Thank you very much for being here today again.
Thank you very much, Preeti, for giving me this platform. And good evening, everyone, and my fellow panelists. Nice to meet you. Um, well, um, well, I think I'm the oldest here because I joined Indian Army in 1976, and in those days it was very male dominated kind of a thing. And when I got into the army, and when we were studying there was a subject OLQ. We all know about these officers like qualities, and I think I was very passionate about this subject. And one thing which really attracted me was social graces, the meeting and greetings, and how to how to eat, the dining etiquette and all that stuff. So the blueprint had already started happening in those days, that this is what I will do when I'll hang my uniform. So eventually, when finally I hung my uniform and got into the civil world, I tried teaching those things to people, but I found that it was too harsh. Because being from the army, rules are rules, and P's and Q's. So people found it very harsh. So I thought I need to soften down, and I need to be little more aware about what actually the civil world wants. So I went to a finishing school, got certification in charm management, and opened my personality development school. This is where the challenges started. First and foremost, as I said, I started my school in 1984. And when I approached people to send their children to me, it was like, personality development? Who needs personality development? And maybe, they thought that personality development means I'm going to turn them into models or very bold girls. And that too from a lady who's from army. What is she going to teach her children? So they were very scared. Especially men were very scared to send their daughters to me. And even if they sent them, they always had these big list of do's and don'ts. Don't teach her this and don't teach her that and all that stuff. So it started from there. People were looking at me differently, compared to the, as Rupinder rightly pointed out, that we veterans are looked at very differently. So the whole thing started from there, and the major change started happening somewhere in 90s, when the cable came in, and the net came in, and colored TVs came in. That's when people, when they were exposed to the world, and they realized how important it is to know about image management and how to carry themselves. So then started the corporate grooming, and in colleges and schools. So I still remember when I went for my first interview with an HR at one of the Fortune 500 companies. A lot happened. But before that, let me tell you that there are all kinds of uh, diversities. Can be, as somebody rightly said, could be culture, could be religion, could be or disability. But there is one diversity which is actually ignored or not looked into, is heightism. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not very tall at height. I'm 4 feet 8 inches. And that has been my biggest challenge. So, being a woman, that to a veteran, and 4 feet 8 inches is a lethal combination. People look through me. Everybody is towering over. They look through me. And when I went to a corporate for my interview, uh, there was this stereotype kind of a thing, a feeling that women, especially a lady from the this thing, is going to be too harsh, and she's going to be too this and that. It was very tough. And I would like to point out about this heightism thing again, that there was a study conducted in Edinburgh University where they found a link between height and intelligence. A lot of people think that short people are dumb. A lot of people think that they don't know anything. And there was a song written somewhere 30 years back by another gentleman, I forget his name, that short people have small hands and small eyes, and short people walk around telling big lies, and small people should not be around in this world. So somewhere or the other, that whole thing has been my biggest challenge, even now, even till today. So that corporate lady, when she interviewed me, I mean, first she looked at me very short, and then she found me to be a little more, robust and aggressive with my approach. So she immediately, rejected me. I thought, okay, maybe I should soften down. So a couple of times I softened down during my interviews with these people. That didn't work, so I went back to again being harsh. So I realized that if you're very harsh and authoritative, like we are taught to be leaders in the army, sometimes it's not taken very well by people in the civil world, and you're called names like dash dash dash. So it becomes a little tough. It hurts you a lot. It took me a very long time to prove myself to those people that I'm an authority figure in my own field, in spite of my height. And even till today, even now, after 34 years of being in these services and being in the glamour world and teaching people all kinds of things, even now, when people read out my profile during a training before I enter, they expect a lieutenant must be a very tall, robust lady, and I walk in. And when I walk in, they look at me, and I can see in their eyes what they're looking at. And so I just smile at them and I said, I know what you're thinking. Maybe you're thinking the PA has come forward and the lieutenant is coming behind. So I have learned to laugh at myself and make people understand that vertically challenged people are as perfect as anyone else. It doesn't matter what is between your head and your feet. What matters is between your head and your chin and how you use it. And that is one thing I would want to use this platform for. Please do not judge people by their height, thinking that they are not worth it. And also, please, I would also suggest, come get away from the labeling you do for women if they are short, by calling them pataka, chota packet, and gitu and bonnie. These hurt. And world is full of all colors and all shapes and all sizes, and that's what makes world beautiful. So through this platform, I would want to request everyone, please remove the hashtag heightism. And also to the women, that they need to not project themselves as women. If you expect different privileges from people just because you are a woman, please get out of that. Now slowly things are changing, gender equality is happening. A lot of women have broken the glass ceiling, they have risen to very high posts. But again, even when my friends share this thing with me, they tell me that when they are authoritative, or when they behave like a man being in that position, they are called names, and people dislike them because of their leadership style. So I think we need to tone down a little now. We need to understand this diversity, that each and every person is beautiful in itself, and we are perfect in our own imperfections, and need to accept that. And yeah, and have everybody inclusive in whatever we are doing. So now, after so many years, finally I feel a little more included wherever I go. But again, as I said, in my profession, most of the in the glamour world, in pageantry, in films, and in television, people are very tall, and I'm still very conscious when I take pictures with them. Because it looks like an M, two tall people standing and me in the center. I do feel very conscious about it, but slowly people have started accepting me, and anybody now dares say that you're short. I turn around and say, I'm not short. I'm as much under the ground as I'm above it. So I've learned to deal with this thing, and yes, people are now slowly accepting. And the only thing what I wanted to say was that please remove this heightism, and also be little more conscious about your communication. What are you saying? What words are you using towards women? Stop calling them the kind of words you use. I see men talking sometimes, especially for women who are on the leadership positions, and because of their style, sometimes they face a lot of dislike because of all that. So that needs to be changed. So that's my bit in it.
Thank you very much for those amazing advice. I've seen a couple of hands go up. I think Rupinder is first in line, and then I will come to Suman. Rupinder.
No, no, I love the way you poured your heart out, Lieut.Rita, and that's brilliant. And I'll just take 1 minute to share a couple of examples here, and I promised I will do that because I lie on the other end of the spectrum. My height is 5'10",
Okay.
and I have this beautiful anecdotes to share because while I was growing up, I was always the tallest in the class, which means I was in ninth or 10th, I was 5'7", 5'8", and the only thing that used to pain me was I was always last in the assembly line, and nobody even used to kind of at that point in time look. But what I realized, and as you rightly pointed out, we all have this as a society, certain amount of biases with regards to height, color, a certain make, and you can kind of make it out when you look at the matrimonial lands very, very clearly. But I remember the specific incident when I was, I think, again, grade 10, and I was walking down with my mother in the marketplace, and my mother is 5'3", 2.5 actually. So, and I was walking with her, and I put my hand on her shoulder, and I was like, "See, Mama, you're so short. I'm 5'7", typically just to the waist." So this mother of mine who's raised me into the principles that I live by today of equality, fairness, and justice. So she gave me a look, and she's a professor of English. She just retired 3 years back. She tells me, she looked at me and gave me a very, very stern and disgusted look. And she said, my nickname is Rupali. Rupali, I am the average Indian female. You are the abnormal one. So next time you tell this to me, you better take those things in perspective. I just wanted to add there. It's so much of colors and perspectives that we live through, and we need to shed a lot of baggage in that sense. Thank you.
There is a lot of study which is going around that every inch of height you have, the higher the scale of the salary goes. You know, there are a lot of studies you can look around, because the I think you should be highly paid now. So the taller you are, the better you are paid. But yes, again, being too tall or being too short, both are something which society will not accept. They have created a mold. If you fit into it, you are accepted. If you are not fitting into it, they will start labeling you too short, too fat, too thin, too dark, which is something I think we need to come out of, because world is changing and we need to.
Correct.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. I
I'm.
think Suman has
I just have a
something to add here. Suman, very quickly before I move on to the live question and answers, because the questions are coming in, they're pouring in. It's all yours, Suman.
Yeah.
Very briefly, very quickly, please.
Okay.
Over to you.
So to add on to Rita, ma'am, like it happened in a landmark forum where there was a girl who was actually very short. She was not even 4. So she was so depressed about her height, and I was trying my level best. And she was my partner. I am 5'8" plus, and I was feeling why I'm sitting with her, I'm making her more conscious. So it was good. I was sitting with her. It gave her a very quick realization. I will verbatim. I'm telling about her statement. Ma'am, I realize now. Think of what? Because of me, you are tall.
Yes.
Right. With that,
And it was I appreciate that her, yeah, that stereotype just gone from her head, and everything just poof away like. And I was so happy
true.
and glad that she's out of that complex. So I really, really appreciate her realization that day. And even I realize everything is relative. Somebody is fair because somebody is dark. Somebody is tall because somebody is short. So it is
It's relative.
actually your frame, what you are fitting in somebody. So I think we should
Thank
stop
you very much
stereotyping people. We
for
should
those
look
thoughts,
like
ladies.
people as a human rather than a male, female, or a tall or a
So
short
let's
or
move on to the
something
live
like that.
questions now. Thank you so much for that. And with that, we
Thank
have our
you.
first question here. And this is from Diksha for you, Rupinder. Did you have to make an extra effort to feel involved if you were coming in from a woman's perspective? This could be taken by other people also, but I'm coming to Rupinder here because there have been sort of ups and downs in your journey. So what are your thoughts on this, Rupinder?
So quickly, Diksha, thank you for asking that question, a very, very pertinent and relevant one. I look at this question from two perspectives. One, as a woman, and the second, when I made a transition from veteran to corporate. So, as a woman, frankly speaking, because I had been raised and ingrained into an environment which was very, very inclusive with the values and principles, wherein my parents never made a distinction between a boy and a girl. I was thrown into the uncharted territory at a very young age. I had to do a lot of stuff which my father encouraged me to do, which typically boys do, just to ensure that I stand on my own 2 feet. Um, in that sense, I've never felt, a very difficult level, or, to make a very extra effort. In fact, I was always very proactive in making sure that I learn the ropes, I understand where people are coming from and the environment, and then I try and, just gel with it. Uh, but yes, to answer your question, did I have to make an extra effort when I joined Forge to feel involved? Yes. And it's a very practical yes, because as Major Suman pointed out, we are still a patriarchal society, as much in the civilian world as much as in the Forgy world. In the Forgy world, as much as we are safe and inclusive and otherwise, it's still dominated by male leadership. So the norms and the shots are typically driven, even if they don't want to, by a male mindset. So, as Suman pointed out, I was posted in a field area in Gurez where there were 300 men soldiers, not even one women lady or women officer, right? And I stayed there for 6 months. Completely. There used to be times when you used to feel very, very alone, especially when you're cut off from the rest of the world. No phone calls, nothing, and all these officers are sitting in the mess and having drinks. And so, what do you do? So there are those real practical challenges. As I said, I did have to go an extra mile to make sure that, I am a part of the family as much as the decorum is maintained, and to ensure that I am still being looked as an officer and not as a lady officer. So in that sense, yes, I did. And also when I transitioned from, let's say, the veteran, the military, to the corporate leadership, that was, in fact, there is where I had to work more, interestingly, which I hadn't thought, because I thought it will be difficult for me to enter Forge and make myself feel involved, because I was coming from a civilian background when I entered Forge. But when I left Forge, and I entered corporate, the corporate had its own lens of looking at veterans, their own biases, one of which is what I talked about the command and control style of leadership. People look at you in a very boxed kind of a situation, fit for certain roles. Then they also look at you as a very authoritarian. And in that sense, I was told on my face that you are intimidating in some situations, because I have a very direct style of communication. I don't really, which I learned, of course, that it's different in the corporate. So in that sense, yes, I had to make a very conscious effort, but that's also way of the world. It's also called, to a certain extent, flexibility. Did I have to compromise my values or my principles? No, and I would never do that. So if that answers your question, and I hope
I'm
it
sure
helps.
it does because there's a lot of nuggets of insights right there. So thank you for that, Rupinder. My next question is for Sonam. Sonam, this is from our dear friend Colonel Amit Verma, who says, if we are talking about something it's yet to reach a stage of acceptance. Do you think that D&I efforts need more action by corporates? Is it more bark than bite? Also, how can they adapt their D&I efforts to the reality of COVID-19 crisis and slowdown? Sonam, all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. So, very interesting question. And what I what I feel about the bit of diversity and inclusion is that the corporates have realized it, and that is why there are a lot of organizations who are taking steps to improve the diversity and inclusion. And most of the organization at startup stage have started it now. The recruitment with diversity and gender diversity, this percentage, people with different abilities, is generally at a more matured stage in the organizations. But I personally feel it, it is prevalent in the markets. The organizations have realized what value it brings in. And I also feel that somewhere down the line, with all the studies that are happening and the statistics that come in, the buy-in to the corporates is much easier, because at the end of the day, every organization, especially profit-making organizations, are running on how the bottom line is impacted by XYZ action. So it's more logical from that perspective. If I am a CEO and I see 37% PNL impact, which is basis study and data points, I would not think twice that I should have a diversity and inclusion as a policy, not only just to keep it for records, but actually see the results happening accordingly. Uh, Sir, at this point in time, about the slowdown and of the economy, first things first in place, at this point in time, the businesses are trying to figure out how to sustain their business. And I don't think, to be more logical, that CEOs or anybody has the capability of doing everything at the same time. So yes, with the economy slowdown, maybe the diversity and inclusion as a charter might have taken a backseat. But that's a part of every economy. That is the part of the cycles of economic turmoils that we go through. That when it goes down, everything is going down. So the focus on diversity inclusion, I'm 100% sure would be impacted, because your PNL is getting impacted. You are just trying to figure it out, because we were never ready for it. We were globally never ready for it. So it's a very practical impact, and I feel that with the nation coming back to the economic, we start climbing up again. Uh, Organizations somewhere down the line are very, very clear about it, that diversity and inclusion is a charter, and the organizations who are not there, I personally feel they are unable to attract good talent. Uh, they are unable to make themselves a great organization to work for, because even as an employee, if there is diversity, I will enjoy going to work. If I have same thought of mine talking in the office every day, there is no excitement to work. So it makes everybody more productive, and that is how the PNL increases. So everything is very intertwined, I must say, and organizations are definitely working towards it. And they want to be in FICCI, they want to be viewed everywhere wherever they can, and they actually are making the efforts to improve their diversity at workplace. In fact, I've written a white paper on managing gender diversity at workplace, and the kind of initiatives Wipro as an organization had taken. It is not, and we are very clear about it, that we are not going to hire anybody which is not basis merit. Everybody will be hired with the merit in it. It is only that we will make the policies to make them more welcomed, and tweak it and be flexible to ensure that our women employees continue in the organization and have a longer term career. So that's what diversity and inclusion brings in. I
Thank you
hope I'm.
so. I'm sure. Otherwise, Amit can always reach out to you and dive deeper into these conversations. So here,
Yes.
that brings me to say, everybody that's tuned in today, please, if there is something that is left out, or if you would like to dive deeper, please reach out to our dear veteran officers on LinkedIn. They are all there. You can go to the post and look up for their links. Reach out to them, talk to them, and that is what will drive the conversations and will drive this agenda step by step. With that, I come on to the next question, and this is for you, Rita. This is from Aroni Saha. Says, how does one understand diversity in an international context? Rita, this one is for you, please.
Yeah, diversity in the international context, I think it's not just India that we have people of all shapes and sizes. I think it's international. So, and so it's all over the world. So I actually don't understand the question, because international context, in what sense? I don't understand the question, because I feel that we are diverse, things are happening everywhere, so it's not just in India. So if he could be more specific with the question, I'll be able to
Not a,
answer that, because
not a
I'm
problem.
really.
I'm sure Aroni will reach out to you and get a response to that. If somebody else wants to quickly,
Yeah, I look forward. Yeah.
I personally feel what he's trying to ask is that is it any different in the international context? And Aruni, to answer your question, I don't know if I'm answering it right or wrong, but as Rita ma'am said, it is typically the diversity and the challenges of diversity and inclusion are similar everywhere. There is a woman a bit. I mean, it's not in India that at leadership stage the women are less. Even in US, it's the same. So the so what she's saying is exactly whether it's international or it's India, there could be a number driven differences between two places because over a period of time as a growing economy, more women are working in India vis-a-vis the development in US, which is a developed economy. So the numbers could differentiate, but the challenges by and large are similar in nature.
thank you very much. And Aroni, please reach out to the other panelists if you would like to get a bit more perspective on this. With that, I am on to the next question, and this one is for you, Suman. And this is from Shubham Biswas, and he goes, how do you handle the cultural diversities in organizations? So from your past experience of being in the forge and now you are a business owner yourself, Suman, how do you think these issues are best addressed and best handled? Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Preeti. So Shubham, army or any armed forces is the best example for the organizations. So how we handle cultural diversity is this is we are able to celebrate all the cultural what you call festivals together to create the bond. So there, then we are more there is no communism, there is no groupism, and we accept each other very easily. And I said we try to create events, we try to celebrate different cultures together, different functions together, festivals together. So that brings bonhomie in the culture, organizational culture. So this is what my take on this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Rupinder, if you are here, the next question is for you. Otherwise, I can move on and come back to Rupinder. Hang on. Oh, you're right here. Okay, so Rupinder, this one is from Gautam, and he goes, how do you deal with co-workers, particularly those not reporting to you or not in your vertical, who may be uncomfortable with the intimidating style of work and who may push back in various forms and forums, not on the basis of merit of the case, but on account of being unable to handle a forceful natured person?
Okay, so let me understand the question better, Gautam. I think that there are multiple questions in that one question that you've asked. And it's a very, very important question, especially because I touched on the intermediating aspect, and it's a very normal thing for us. So what you're asking is that what to do or how to handle people who may be uncomfortable with the intermediating style of work, right? And to which my understanding is that the person has an intimidating style of work, right? And in which case, the second question that you've asked here is that not on the basis of merit of case, but on account of being unable to handle a forceful natured person. So is it from the perspective of the person who's being handled, or is it from the perspective of the person who's handling it? I need to get a little more clarity, and then I'll be able to answer the question in context. If you could help me understand, is there a way we can help people unmute and then ask Preeti, or can they type in what is the
This will not
modus?
happen on live. This
This will
happens
not
in Zoom,
happen.
but on live it is
Okay.
impossible.
So,
So
so
I'm sure
then let me.
Gautam will be able to reach out to you and dive deeper. If you want to take any other aspect of that
I
question,
will.
and otherwise,
Yes. So I will take the aspect of the maybe from the perspective of how do you deal with people because you have an intermediating style, which is like kind of given as a legacy to you sometimes. And I'll share it, Gautam, from the perspective of and give you a real example for myself. When I entered into my first corporate job, which was with MQ Pharmaceuticals as an organization development head, I straight away jumped from being in the forces. This was my first job, and I was handling a team of 4 people at that point in time. And I remember, I'm not sure I would say that as a legacy, but that was also one wave that we were dealing with. That the word of the commanding officer in Forge is law, and most of us who are here would resonate with that. And that were the principles that I was ingrained with. So while I knew that I was transitioning into the corporate, but I still had that style of leadership which was more to veering towards command and control. And I remember in one of our very important strategy meetings where I was presenting to the senior leadership, there was a point in time when the junior most member in that team actually asked me, Rupinder, this is something that I don't resonate with, and this is something that I don't think you're doing right. I typically, given my style, I would have probably said, given a shut up call to that person and said, let's not talk it now, let's talk it about it later. But I didn't do that. Now, and I accepted it at that point in time. I said, okay, thank you, Mr. XXS. Let's look into that. We'll come back to it later. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is people will have different styles of working, different styles of communication, different styles of leadership. As a leader, if you are in those shoes and you are being called intimidating, it's a good idea to take a step back, check for feedback from different sources, self reflect on what that feedback is giving you, and then see if there's an opportunity for you to relook at your leadership style. That's also a process of evolution and growing, right? Are you in it for the long run for 5 7 years, and does it make sense for you to change your leadership style? The choice is still yours, but it's still food for thought. That's one perspective. Now the second perspective, like if you are on the receiving end, if you are a person who's being given that intimidating style of command and control, then what you definitely need to do is, again, dialogue is the best starting point. Seek a time from that person whom you are feeling intimidated from and discuss your concerns and how it is impacting your performance. Now, the catch here is that you do not blame the person for a certain way of communication or leadership. You talk to him or her about how is that impacting your performance and your well-being, in which case it's a win-win for both the parties. So that's from my side a quick and a crisp one, but we can connect later if you want to discuss more on that.
Thank you very much for that, Rupinder. And that brings me to the next question. And this one is for you, Rita. This is Kriti Pandey, and she goes, didn't you feel awkward when people looked at you differently? How can one get over that? And her pain is she is also short, she says, and people often comment on her. So she is undergoing the same journey and asking for your advice. Over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, Kriti. I would just want to say just one thing. Do not make people's opinion your own reality. Right? Because कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. People will talk even if you are tall, good looking, not good looking. People will still talk. So best is to become deaf to the world. That's what I did. Become deaf to these things, because if you take it to your heart, you will go down, all the more down. So it's important that you learn to believe in yourself. Remember, God has made you whichever way He's made you for a reason. So when you accept yourself with dignity, you accept yourself that there is a reason I'm like that, and use that. Now I when I speak to people, I use my height to tell them that if I can do it, so can you. So you should become like a role model. Instead of taking it to your heart, think positive, accept yourself and move ahead. And as I said, Everybody has an opinion, and that should not bother you, because you have your own opinion. If you are happy with yourself, it doesn't matter what world thinks of you.
Thank you very much
I
for
would
that
like
amazing
I would
insight.
like to add
Yeah, please.
I would like to add
Sure,
something on
please.
what Pam said here. Ma'am, I completely agree with you. And one point I would like to add here is that as women, maybe in a country like India, no matter how your childhood is and what all you used to do, it was never good enough. And that gets into our system. So the moment outsiders say something, we want to believe it because we somewhere have made it in our heads that we are not good enough. So if you have self love, it everything will automatically fall in place. So just
Yeah.
and it is doable. Start accepting the imperfections in a very in a very proud way, and you will start loving yourself for who you are and what you are. That's
Yeah,
my
I would
thought.
also like to add here that, when you stand in front of the mirror every day, what we normally do is that we are always looking at what we don't have. Oh, I wish I was taller. I wish I had long hair. I wish I was fairer. Who is the first person who's listening? It's you. So when you are insulting your own self, adding to what Major Sonam said, that if you are insulting your own self, how would your body respect you? So
Yeah.
self love is very important. The way you start loving your body and saying, "Wow, I love how you are," and you look at your best features. This world has got a duality. There's black, there's white, there is night, there's dark. So we have our plus and minus. So instead of focusing on your minus, focus on your plus, and love yourself. Because the moment you start accepting and loving yourself, your body will give it back, and it will reflect out. The vibrations will
Yeah.
reflect out, and people will start loving you too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. And even I would like to add something right here. And here I would use the oxygen mask analogy. When doing safety instructions, the flight purses always tell us when conditions are non conducive, the oxygen mask will fall down. Make sure you pull the oxygen mask and put it on your nose and mouth first before you go out and help others. That totally resonates with exactly what you ladies have just said over here, Rita and Sonam. In terms of self care first, take care of yourself first, and then it is anybody else that needs to be taken care of. I think Rupinder and Suman also raised their hands to add some things. Suman, yeah, I'll come to you, then I'll go to Rupinder. Over to you, Suman.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Preeti. So just, Kriti, I want to say one liner to you. Always look beyond look. Have your inner strength and capability. Trust on them rather than on your looks. Looks are not, they are temporary, but not permanent. But your strengths are always permanent. So look on your strengths, abilities.
Thank you for that. And Rupinder, would you like to add something right here?
I
Cannot
just
be.
wanted to say the same thing, which enlarging on Suman's and the others' perspectives. Take it to your from physical beauty. I think take it to the beauty of the mind, which is imperative. So the world is there to put you down. You are the one who has to fight against the world. You have to accept yourself, your point of view. There'll be people who'll tell you why it can't be done. You have to show them how it is to be done. And then those are the people who'll come back to you and say, wow, brilliant, you did it. So
Yep.
that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we have time enough for that. And here is Gautam saying, Rupinder, very insightful, would seek to connect to discuss more. So he is going to be connecting with you. Time
Anytime,
enough for
most
just that?
welcome, Gautam.
Yeah. There you heard it, Gautam. Anytime, please reach out. She's right there. Time enough for just this. As closing comments, I would come to Sonam first in terms of as a woman and as a veteran, what do you think? Couple of things, that you think could enable us as women and as veteran, and two or three things that you see should be actually removed to make our lives and our paths smoother. So I'll come to you first, Sonam, and then I'll go to the rest after that. Over to you.
Okay. Can I just see the question once again because I
It's
think
not a
there was
question. It's
some.
just a parting. It's not here. It's just a parting advice in terms of
Okay.
as women and as veterans. What do you think could be one or two enablers that should be there which maybe you did not get or that should be available to every woman, every veteran, and couple of things that you wish were not there as rodas or obstacles in your path. So thoughts around
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Okay. So to add on to how to enable this, diversity at workplace and make it a more conducive workplace and a more inclusive workplace to feel welcomed. Couple of things that can be added in the organization is, I think more leadership involvement has to be in the organizations instead of just having one diversity and inclusion leader. I think it comes down from the CEO. If CEO makes it his goal or her goal, the things just percolated down, and the organizations where it is really happening well, it is something that is a goal of the CEO of the organization. So that is one thing that most of the organizations should try and fix it, because one role of diversity and inclusion head cannot drive it without the buy-in of the major leadership team. Because uh, again, now here the second point comes in. No matter how much people say that we welcome diversity, the mindset and mind shift of the leaders and the managers who are managing team members with a diverse team with a different gender is something that needs to be worked on. It is unconscious bias, what we call it. We do a lot of trainings, etc., but it comes from the childhood, from how they have seen their mothers and what roles they have seen their mothers in, for them to accept and digest that the roles have changed. And maybe by the generation of our kids it's going to not be a problem, but at this point in time it is a problem. So more of trainings on mindset is something that will unblock the unbiased unconscious biases that people carry. And secondly,
Mhm.
the leadership team has to completely be enabling the diversity and inclusion as a charter and part of their KPIs. What I wish could have been better, I feel that when I went into the Indian Army, as others also said, it was, though I've always been the person who wants to take things on the positive side of it, and I took it with a lot of pride. Okay, I am. But yes, there would be times when there are like 10, 11 officers, 12 officers standing in the officers mess alone, and you don't know when to say bye, and since you are the junior most when you've come in, so all those small things used to happen. I felt that when, even in the Indian Army, when this change took place, maybe the communication in such changes should be more specific, and maybe the senior leadership should be absolutely, somewhere down the line, they need to be trained how to deal with the diversity which was never there. It is not only Indian Army, in any organization also there has to be a well drafted mindset trainings, as well as why this is done and what is in it for us, kind of a thing. That's all I feel.
Thank you so much for those insights, Sonam. It's over to you, Suman, now, in terms of what do you think are the inhibitors in women veteran journey, and what can be done better to make the world open out for women veterans? Suman?
Okay, thank you, Preeti. So, well, I would say time has changed now. I joined army in 97. So now it's 2020. So now things have changed for the women in the organization as well. And I think the organization need to break that stereotype of mindset. So stop looking as a gender, as a woman to the officer as a woman. Give her leverage to work as a human, right? So because gender is, it's just a mindset. Because I'll give you a small example. Because I was commissioned in the engineers, Corps of Engineers, which is a combat arm. So we were not given that time the combat arm inclusion, because we were given the work MES, if you have a military engineering service, which is a desk job. So we asked for, we want to be part of the combat arm, and they had a strong mindset that women can't come in combat arms. So we were given a 1 week, 4 weeks of training. Okay, you can go ahead, and there we had to lift bridge. We have to make bridge. We have to lift the equipments there. So there was one equipment called sway braces, which was one man carry. There were equipments which was like 6 men carry, 5 men carry, 4 men carry, and 1 man carry. Now it's women in the bridge hard. So I just went to the bridge hard to break that stereotype mindset. I went alone there and I lifted that sway brace on my shoulder and I was coming towards the our bridge hard area. And there are two gentlemen officers were fighting there. They were saying, it is wrong written in the book and pressy, yaar. It's not 2 men carry, yaar. It's very heavy. And that time I was bringing in that. And then he said, just look back. And he just felt very embarrassed, ashamed, and he ran towards the bridge to pick up his own equipment. So my uh, message to the organization is, please break the stereotype of men, women. Just treat them as a human. They are equally capable of doing everything. Everything means everything. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you so much for that. With that amazing insight, when the people are saying it's not possible, and then there you are making sure that they can see it is possible, and that sort of stops
Yes.
them in their track and shuts them out there. So brilliant insight over there. Thank you very much for that. Rita, coming to you, in terms of your views on, again, what are a couple of enabling factors that you wish would be available more readily? And then looking at the span of 34 years, what do you think has changed for the better, for the worse, for the entire women lot in general, and veteran women in particular? Any insights at all, and any parting advice for anybody and everybody that's tuned in today? Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. In these last 34 years, I must say, very slow progress has taken place. It's a very slow progress which is happening in the field of diversity. And I agree with Sonam when she says there is so much of unconscious biases about the descriptive and the prescriptive way of looking at a woman. So, as Suman said, it's very important that we tear off that book where we have divided it into male and female, and we need to rewrite the rules, because she's proved, and as a lot of women have proved, that they're rubbing shoulders with men doing exactly what they are doing, and much more better rather. So it's important, first thing, that we accept them as human beings, because color, creed, caste, nothing matters. What is inside you is what matters. So if you are capable, if you've done the same studies, you've done the same thing, I think we need to accept that we are all equal. So coexistence has to be there. But one thing which still bothers me a lot is the communication. A lot of words which are very discriminative towards women are used by men very, very casually, even in their normal conversation, all the MCs and PCs, which really pains me. So India has everything. One thing which we don't have is manners. We don't have the etiquette. We don't think before we speak. So we need to dress rehearse when we are speaking about women. So we have to be careful about our words. That needs to be changed, and stop labeling women in different categories. It's very important that we label each and every person as a peaceful and a happy soul and a happy human being. So coexistence is my take on it.
Thank you so much. And rightly said, it's yin and yang. It's like two sides of the same coin. So why the difference? That is something which I've always failed to understand right from my childhood myself, because I was the one who was always against the grain as well. If the world was going left, I was forever the one going right, because I was told, don't go to the right. It's a road never taken, and you can't do it. So I would go, I would do something over there. I would come back and tell them, no, sorry, you were wrong. I went there and I did it and I came back, and I'm telling you, it's possible. So that is something a little bit about me. But last but not the least, my dear friend Rupinder, let's talk about some numbers. You are a researcher. You have been into research of the percentage points in terms of profitability, in terms of motivation, in terms of other things when there is diversity in the organization versus there is not. So in depth, all of these studies, what has that made you think? What are your wishes, and what are your couple of regrets when you see the state of women in general, and again veterans in particular around you? Share it with us, my dear. All yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much for again for this question. Yes, the numbers. As much as I agree with uh, Rita ma'am here, that despite the fact there's a lot of lip service which the society and the corporates are paying to the cause of diversity, and especially with regards to women, the needle hasn't really moved much. If you look at the numbers, only 3% of the Indian companies featuring in the top Fortune 500 have women as CEOs. And globally, the ratio isn't much better. It's just 2 percentage points, maybe 5 to 7% is what we have globally. Sad numbers out there. If I look at another aspect of parity, which is with regards to pay parity, big gap, huge gap. Yeah. Um, if I only look at the CEO pay package, women are being paid 35% less than what their male counterparts are being paid at the same position. What are we talking about? A lot of lip service out there. Yeah. And if we look at the promotional aspects, they may not say it. Yeah. But if you look at the hiring numbers, most of the hiring is happening at the entry and the junior level. Um, Not a lot of hiring is happening where people can really move to the next levels, especially with regards to women. So, as I said, again, a lot of lip service, and we are testimony to the fact that there is lip service. And one of the major reasons for that lip service is what we talk about, the unconscious biases, which are ingrained not only in corporates. And that's why corporate may not be the starting point for us to bring about the change. The starting point is the family, the fundamental unit of the societal existence, where the belief systems about who you are as a human being, as a lady, as a girl, are being nurtured. How will the society look at you? Will the society look at a girl as a leader in the same way, the way they look at as a boy? And that's where I love Sheryl Sandberg's quote, where she says that, the next time your girl exhibits bossy skills, don't call her boss, call her a leader, and she'll carry that faith fundamentally within her. And that's also where I have personally a problem when the society and corporates in general, and because I have done that, I've been there, call women leadership development programs. Why women? Why differentiate between men and women as a leader? Why not leader in general as a term? And that's where I think the fundamental change and shift has to come about, Preeti. And that's my pain area, and that's where my research is also headed, to really look at not only societal biases, which translate into work biases, but also biases that we carry within ourselves as women, as girls, when we are being raised up against ourselves, which do not serve us in the shorter or in the longer run. Uh, Something that I also, in with that sense, I would also want to give women as my 2 cents is, I was given this, I've done a lot of different roles in my career of last 15 years. I was told at multiple times, don't chew off more than you can bite. I would say, go ahead and chew whatever your appetite is. You will fundamentally find a way if you have the vision and the aspiration. So I will definitely give that 2 pieces to all women out there who are listening to this one, that it's okay to be called strong and assertive. It is okay to run after your dreams till the time you can feed them. It's your direction, it's your life, it's your pace. Just be sure that you're going in the right direction, and you'll eventually get there. But I also want to say here, as much as we're talking about biases, uh, as many as there are naysayers, there are an equal number of supporters in men. So if you can really find that one, for example, the families that we are staying in, the very fact that we are able to have this dialogue, and talk about it in such an open manner, is the fact that you have purple champions who are championing your cause to come to the same level. So make sure that you garner their support, make them your allies, and then progressively and collectively move forward. That's for as far as women are concerned. One thing I'll definitely want to talk about is with regards to veteran women, which is why also we fundamentally touched on the fact that they have unique problems. uh, and rightly so, yeah. And that's an advice to all veterans, not only women veterans. For veterans who are transitioning, it took us, if for short service, it took us 5 years. For the people who are superannuating, it took us 20 years to get to that rank. Yeah. So there is no way that in the next 3 to 6 to 7 months or 10 months, we are going to be completely okay with a typical civilian life of working, right? I would also take this opportunity, Preeti, to say that all those people who are there in my civil counterparts, let's go beyond the handshake and say thank you for your service. Let's go beyond that. Let's carry the torch. We need a sustained commitment and on ground practical programs that are aimed at getting transitioning veterans back into the workplace. And the real opportunity is how do we create those partnerships where we can all come together to provide a complete landscape and ecosystem for veterans to really contribute back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and amazing insights, absolutely. And as you know, we have actually started taking a little bit of strides towards that exactly, with Lowe's India being the pioneer in terms of a veteran mentoring program. And then we at LinkedIn Local India, with your support and other people in the community, corporate and veterans alike, have embarked on this journey as well, and we would be announcing our own veteran mentoring program very soon as well. With that, it is thank you very much, first of all, to all the attendees for being here to listen to us. Thank you, ladies, for your service, first of all, and thank you for being here today. It's also thanks to our streaming partner, Echo Events. Before we log off, a couple of quick reminders about a few other gigs coming up. So, today our diversity dialogue was all about professional women veterans. The next one is scheduled for August 19th, and that will take a holistic approach and a holistic view of all the four pillars of diversity, being women, veteran, LGBTQ, and specially abled people. Watch out for that one. That is going to be an extremely exciting session. We have Samir Chadha, who is the CEO of KPMG India, coming up. We have the global diversity head of Boeing, Nandini Sarkar, coming up, and there are a few other surprises, waiting in the wings. So please watch out for all those announcements. Make sure you're there. It will be on Zoom. Registration will be mandatory. It's a community event, open to all, and everybody is welcome. There's another one coming up on Friday, which is August 7th at 7 p.m. This one is about be your own boss, how you do not need to work for anybody else, but you can take ways and means and measures to start on your own. So, those are the couple of things to look out for. Once again, thank you to everyone for being here. And this is me, your host, Preeti Chaudhary, with this diversity dialogue and our guests, Rupinder, Sonam, Rita, and Suman, saying adios, amigos. Until next time, please take good care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Jai
Bye.
Hind. Thanks.